Thank you. Okay, thank y'all so much. Check yours. Good in that jacket. Yeah, you look good in that jacket. Yeah. All right, so
That is the one that used to be on. Yes, that's right.
When people don't know,
They just don't, yeah. And
they
then,
crash everything.
even Dr. Davis, our first KC director,
Very like, okay.
I have one year since
Well,
they just had a little trailer like in the front. So he just,
John was good friends with the,
A whole bunch of old friends I've never met.
thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Space Shuttle.
A lot of people here worked on the program.
Like everybody.
A lot of people. You want me to get it?
And, you know, I had the record, and then some 20-something National Guard guy beat me.
He's the only one who beats you. That's amazing. I still tell us. You're a record for the
My name and my time are on the back of the door at the top of that panel.
Awesome. That's the Artemis. That's what's flying out. That's launching the car. Awesome. Let's see what we did. Okay, yeah, this is basically yeah, the operations, and then we did the exercise. It turned out awesome. I mean, the RTGs went on fine. Transported the pad, very successful operation. Test was completed. We're ready to go for launch. And then in September, of course, like Bob was saying, we had to get the president approval. Every time we launch one of these, you have to have a president approval, which he did. The launch was delayed by some faulty engine controllers, and eventually we postponed until the 17th. Now again, because of, we launched on the 18th, because of the window we had to the 21st of November. So we had almost a month gap there where something went wrong, we could still launch because the window ran out on November 21st. If we try to launch past November 21st, we'd have to wait 13 days. Yeah. So again, it was a very interesting mission. It took a lot of, as far as the ground processing they did, and work, and of course the interesting stuff about the whole protest. But we launched. Okay, this is some really cool pictures. This is a deploy showing again the IUS vehicle with this Ulysses spacecraft on top of it. And this is the structure that held it in the shuttle. And again, we horizontal for launch. We launched, the doors would open, it would rotate the hood, and then deploy. I mean, this is the back shot of that vehicle. That's what's basically after it was deployed into the switch. Okay. Now because it
Headed towards you.
no, not Jupiter. You're right. He was actually headed away from Jupiter. He was actually fired away from Jupiter. That's the next thing. Because the IUS was lower power, you had to do a number of gravity assists from planets to be able to get you there. You know, the Centaur could go whoop. With IUS, you had to get enough energy to go to Jupiter. Okay. And that's kind of what this is. I don't know if anybody can read this, but it's basically the orbital trajectory to get this thing to Jupiter.
And the folks at JPL, they have the best folks at orbital mechanics ever. They are amazing at how they figure out how to use planetary assists to get payloads where they need to go. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and then we can describe exactly how that works. You have here where you launch. Okay. Now again, for Galileo, we're supposed to go to Jupiter, but what we did, we actually launched towards the sun. we needed assist from Venus. So we go by Venus and we launch in October. We get the Venus flyby in February 10th of 1990. We back around, another flyby Earth. Okay, so, and what we did is actually, I looked up the data, we got about 11,000 miles per hour from Venus, about 8,900 miles per hour extra from the Earth. From that, yeah. And one thing too about the way that you kind of think about how does this actually work, okay? Well, you got the gravity's pulling the spacecraft, the planet's pulling the spacecraft towards, the planet's pulling the spacecraft, yeah, towards the planet. Well, it's pulling it, it speeds it up. Well, as it went by, why doesn't that same gravity slow it down to the same speed that it left at, right? It's going to speed it up, why doesn't it slow it down? Well, the planet's moving in the same direction as the vehicle. And that's what gives you that little extra kick, because you're going in the same direction. It gives that little extra boost because you're both proceeding. And so that was used basically to gain velocity. And so we basically went by the Earth the first time, about 600 miles. Then we went out, basically flew by an asteroid, then back to Earth. Okay, so second Earth flyby. This one was the one everybody was worried about. This came within 188 miles of surface, over to 180 miles of what it came in. So it was real close. People were freaking out. But then once that got the last kit to send that on to Jupiter. And so you had to do a Venus flyby, two Earth flybys to get it to Jupiter. And then basically it arrived in 95. And we won't go over everything that happened, but then the mission actually ended in 97. And kind of the way it ended was it was starting to lose propellant and control. And they did not want this thing just crashing into anything they wanted to crash into. So before they lost command and control of the vehicle, they actually aimed it into the planet Jupiter. They aimed it into the atmosphere so it would burn up, basically, in planet Jupiter. So that's what happened in 97 December. This is just a picture. This is kind of cool. A picture of Earth and Moon from Galileo as it flew by, one of the flybys. And then this is kind of a picture of it at Jupiter with the artist's concept of the antenna not being fully deployed. So that's basically Galileo. Okay. Now for Bob's. One thing, yeah. Interesting. We had that, remember the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 that impacted Jupiter? Remember? We saw it, very unique. Galileo, because of where it was on the far side of Jupiter. Okay. We were on the side of Jupiter that we couldn't see the actual impact. We saw the results of the impacts, but it was on the backside of Jupiter. So Galileo was on the backside of Jupiter when that happened. So these are pictures of the actual impacts that Galileo took. Just happened to be in the right spot when those impacts took place and then filming. And just basically a sequence of 4 shots of it actually impacting. And again, at the time, they weren't really sure the exact timing, but they planned it out and they got these 4 shots of then basically the fragment W. This one's fragment W. So this is kind of cool. They were able to pull it out. And then the end of Galileo, basically, yeah, they would run out of propellant. And so the last signal was received on the 21st, 2003, at 3:43. Then it blew back. So it's gone. Now to Ulysses. Ulysses, that's Bob's mission.
I get to talk.
No, yeah, go for it. That's basically just.
So Ulysses was a joint NASA-ESA project. The program manager was Derek Eaton. He was a Brit, and we made one trip over to Noordwijk in the Netherlands for briefings on it before it was shipped to the United States. Ulysses, and we'll get to some pictures of its orbit and everything. It had 11 experiments on board to study the polar regions of the sun, which had never been done before. All the planets, of course, orbit the sun in the ecliptic plane. And so Ulysses went out to Jupiter, and it flew over the North Pole of Jupiter, and then using a gravity assist from Jupiter, it was flung out of the ecliptic plane into a 5-year orbit around the sun. Now, why didn't it have to make moves like Galileo? In addition to the inertial upper stage, it also had a payload assist module on it so that it could go directly to Jupiter. The closest Ulysses ever got to the sun was when it was launched here on planet Earth, where it was 1 astronomical unit away. Once launched, it went into a 5-year orbit around the sun. And obviously, Jupiter And then on the perigee, the short side of the orbit, it was, I think it was about 1.5 AUs from the sun when it went around the back side of the sun and back out to Jupiter. It was designed for one pass around the sun, one 5-year mission, and it lasted for 18 years. And what's really cool, when it went around the sun 5 years, and then 5 years later, the sun's on about a 10-year solar cycle, okay? And it got to see the sun at both a solar minimum and a solar maximum. And so not only did it get to see the sun twice, it got to see it 3 times in those 15 years, 5 years orbits. And it was just great science that was done on it at the 11 experiments.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Bob was the pilot for that flight.
I was. It was my first flight.
Where were you guys?
So,
we'll get into that, yeah.
well, you can talk about the ground process.
Okay.